It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. You do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. It's the second game of our Monday doubleheader. Our first show is our NFL draft preview. Our second show, Hacksaw's Headlines, is now launching. This podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas, they can be your consultant, Dixieline Lumber. And by Our Lads Draft Guide. You love the National Football League draft, you have the chance to subscribe right now and still get the draft preview book that they put out. Just go to ourlads.com. John Riley, good afternoon. Man, we got a lot to talk about. We just covered wall-to-wall the National Football League draft, and we're going to talk baseball, the NBA playoffs, the NHL. There's an awful lot of other stories to talk about. How you doing?
Doing great. And by the way, it's nice seeing John Cooper there in the first part of the doubleheader, but there's a lot going on. We were talking about Luis Arraez and his injury, and so let's get into some of the other sports.
Yeah, we're going a lot of different directions. Just a couple of reminders. You might have watched the first half of our doubleheader. That was a separate entity podcast. If you have a comment about everything you heard, we invite you to jump back on board and type it in now. Fans Forum chat box is open for NFL football fans, draft fanatics. John, how does Fans Forum work?
Yeah, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. If you have a question or comment in the world of sports for Hacksaw, just drop your take in the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Want you to check my website. Unbelievable week of coverage in sports. I write a ton. It's right there, leehacksawhamilton.com. On the homepage, there's an orange box. Fill it out. Get on the email list. Become part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You'll get emails that we send out every day to people in the Insiders Group. If you're on social media, want you to follow me, join my Twitter all-star team. Just go to X, type in @Hacksaw1090, hit the follow button. We know you like what we're doing. You follow us, share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll also get the alerts every time you put something new on the YouTube channel, which is quite often. So there's lots of ways to be involved with us in addition to the podcast on Mondays and Thursdays. Okay, let's zero in. First topic on the table, John, is
baseball, Padres and Dodgers.
Yeah, nice headline. Wins, losses, and injuries. Padres continuing this road trip. They're in Detroit for a 3-game series. Padres had a tough weekend, got beat twice, and then lost their first baseman, Luis Arraez. A fluke injury, collision at first base on a bunted ground ball. He stumbled going into first base, running down the line. His jaw hit the shoulder of the Astros second baseman, Mauricio Dubon, at full force. He went down like a sack of potatoes. At first, they feared because there was blood coming out of his mouth. They feared he might have fractured his jaw. Does not appear that. However, he hit and almost went down unconscious. Back of his head hit the turf as he was falling backwards. He was down for 11 minutes. Taken to the hospital, spent 2 hours there, rejoined the Padres in the clubhouse as they were packing up to head to Detroit. He was not allowed to leave Houston. He was kept there for observation. He may have flown into Detroit this afternoon. They're going to have to make a decision whether they put him in a concussion protocol because he was out on the field for the better part of maybe 11 minutes. It was a scary situation. Luckily, does not appear that he had a fractured jaw. Hopefully, he does not have a concussion. But just call this thing team disabled list. This is amazing how many guys the Padres have lost, starters in their batting order in the span of about 10 days, obviously starting with Jackson Merrill, going to Jake Cronenworth, then Jason Hayward, and now this injury, as fluke and weird as it was, at the end of the day, Fernando Tatis is carrying this thing. Man, is he playing like a madman right now. Batting average, running the bases, catching everything in right field, and hitting bombs. He's done a really good job.
Yeah, Fernando Tatis, we're seeing the full package and the discipline at the plate, which is wonderful to see. Let's talk a little bit about the Arraez injury. Now, two parts to this. Number one, didn't it seem like Dubon kind of had like a little bit of a forearm shiver kind of come into the base? And do you think that the MLB is going to break down and have the two bags at first base for safety reasons?
No, I don't think there'll be any rule changes. I just think it was fluke. Dubon was crossing the bag and he was stumbling forward. His body was stumbling forward as he was reaching to touch the bag, and Arise was stumbling and just went into him. I mean, it was a hell of a collision. I was surprised that Dubon did not get badly shaken up, but I don't think there was any intent there. I just think it was a bang-bang play. But boy, they are running short of guys. I mean, if they have to put Arise on the concussion list, that's 7 days, definitely that he will be out. Other issues with the Padres, I don't know what they're going to do with Kyle Hart because, yeah, the record might be 2 wins, but he's also got a very high ERA. And I went back and tracked also his spring training statistics when he was ready to go in the Cactus League and what he's done now. He's thrown 32 innings so far, spring and regular season, 36 hits, 10 walks. He's given up 8 home runs.
8?
8. 4 in spring, 4 in the regular season.
Wow.
So he doesn't have big velocity, and if he can't locate, then he gets lit. So they're gonna have a decision to make if this trend continues where he gets a lot of guys on base and gives up bombs. Big issue there. The guy that they thought was going to have a great spring and they wound up sending to El Paso, Stephen Kolek, his ERA as a starter in El Paso is now 7.17. So he's not doing as well as he did during the course of the Cactus League. Luis Campusano, wow, El Paso. Phone hasn't rung yet. He's hitting 407. He's got 5 home runs in the first 2 weeks of AAA baseball in the Pacific Coast League. So that's all things Padre baseball. They're in the midst of a road trip. And again, they got a lot of road games coming up because they played so many home games, played 13 home games the first couple of weeks of the season. From that, we talk Dodger baseball. Holy cow. Yash Yamamoto. His ERA is now 0.73.
Whoa.
I mean, he is striking guys out. He's not letting guys get on base. Very impressive. Roki Sasaki has now had 3 strong starts in a row. Doesn't have anything to show for it because the Dodger bats have kind of gone silent on him, but he's pitching really well. And Dustin May is 1.06 ERA. Think about that. And that's 3 starts of really dominance from Dustin May. Dodgers still the back half of the batting order, positions 5 through 9, still kind of skitterish, still not hitting, but the Dodgers are only a half game behind the Padres in first place. So all things Padres, all things Dodgers. You had a comment to make?
Yeah, well, it seems like both teams, the bottom half of the order is just sort of a hodgepodge right now. And as great as the Padres have gotten off to a great start here, the Dodgers like right there, and so you got to keep up this intensity and this momentum all year. I mean, this could be a dogfight for 6 months.
Clayton Kershaw will make a second start at Oklahoma City. Tony Gonsolin will make 1 more start at Oklahoma City. So it looks as if we got 2 guys on the way. Ohtani has ramped up his bullpen sessions, but they're still talking mid-May, but that's not that far away. So Ohtani looks like he's about to come. So we're looking at 3 more pitchers still to be delivered.
And now Ohtani is back from paternity leave. So his first child was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you're still thinking he's going to pitch in May?
The end of May.
The end of May. All right. I mean, we're going to find out how this goes.
Like you're saying, Padres need to keep stacking wins upon wins upon wins because we haven't seen the complete Dodger team yet.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we really haven't seen the complete Padre team yet. So they're both off to a good start. Like you always say, it's April, it's still early, but you're a Southern California baseball fan. You got to be happy.
It's pretty cool. Okay, you're a Padre fan, Dodger fan. Jump into the fans forum chat box. Got an opinion, especially on the Arise hit. Just a really weird fluke play. I just don't think there was any intent. That was what we'd call bang bang, and Arise really came out the worst of it.
Bang.
Let's go to the next baseball topic.
Okay, bouncing around the MLB, the notebook.
The commissioner, Rob Manfred, went to the White House to meet with the president, Trump.
Now, here we go.
Trump tried to bully Manfred about Pete Rose. Trump said, I am going to pardon him. That's okay. If you wish to pardon him from his conviction when he went to prison on income tax evasion for his gambling debts, you can do anything you want. Rose's memory can stand next to the guy's January 6th who all got pardons that didn't deserve it. But Manfred came out of that meeting and said, I run baseball. Pete Rose is not going to be reinstated. He's not going to be put on the Hall of Fame eligibility list. In essence, Manfred said, the White House has no control over Cooperstown, the Hall of Fame ballot, or what comes out of the commissioner's office. So that's the story as we sit there. Yankees. I knew the pressure was going to get to Juan Soto. So heading into the weekend, I mean, the Mets are hanging tough. The Mets have had a bit of a surprise start to the season. I still don't think they have enough pitching. Juan Soto's batting average at one point on Friday was down to 224. So he was asked about slow start, Citi Field, Juan Soto pulls this out of the air. Well, I don't have Aaron Judge hitting behind me in the batting order. He's copping out for his 224 batting average. What an insult, because who's he got hitting behind him? Pete Alonso, who, by the way, was hitting 436 on the weekend.
Yeah, he's killing it.
He's killing it. Here's Soto copping a plea. I don't have Aaron Judge. How does that make Pete Alonso feel? What absolute stupid thing to say.
Soto.
Yeah. White Sox, it just continues to get worse and worse. Now they lose Martin Perez. Martin Perez is out, going to do an MRI. He's injured his forearm. The ex-Padre, ex-Texas Ranger, he was off to a good start. He was about the only legitimacy they had in their rotation. Had a 1.36 ERA. It looks like he's going to be gone indefinitely. That's not a good look. How about the Cubs, Arizona? Did you hear about this game over the weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Arizona scores 10 runs on the top of the eighth inning of a game against the Cubs. Cubs come back and score 6 in the bottom of the eighth inning and win the game, 13-11. They scored 16 runs in one inning, modern-day baseball record. Cubs in Arizona. Orioles, boy, are they angry at Mike Elias, that general manager. And here's the Orioles yesterday at home at Camden Yards on Easter Sunday. The Orioles got beat. You didn't look at the box score, did you? Orioles got beat by the Cincinnati Reds 24-2 at home. Their pitching staff is just in tatters. And Mike Elias has just taken an enormous amount of heat and got all these good young everyday guys in their lineup. And in Minnesota, bad start to the season, did zero in the offseason in terms of player acquisitions. They drew an all-time low to Target Field on Easter weekend, 10,600 for a home game. All-time low in a shiny new stadium. That's a vote of no confidence towards the Pohlad family. They've got that thing so screwed up in the Twin Cities, and that's really sad. So, baseball notes. You want to talk about the commissioner at the White House, what the White House said, what the commissioner's response is? Feel free. You have an explanation? You give me an excuse about Juan Soto not having any support in the batting order? Geez, what a cop-out. Go ahead, John.
This is what we saw of Juan Soto here in San Diego. You know, the guy he's not a team player at all. You know, and there was another incident where, like, you know, there was a walk-off and, you know, he wasn't there to congratulate his players and his teammates.
Mr. Me, Myself, and I.
Exactly. And that's a perfect line for him. And I was going to say, well, New York fans are kind of getting a dose of Soto, but they got a dose of him with the Yankees. But this is part of the reason why I think Padre fans are happy to see him gone. And, you know, we can debate the pros and cons of all the different deals to get Soto and send Soto away. The Trump thing is funny because he's like Mr. Rule of Law. And he's bullying Manfred to let Pete Rose off. I mean, it's just comical, but everything about that. But it fits the character of our president. But, you know, these two blowout games, when you first mentioned the Cubs-Diamondbacks game, I was thinking of that Orioles-Reds 24-2, and I got those two mixed up. It's crazy.
16 runs in one inning.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have gone for 3 beers at the refreshment stand, and it'd still be in the 8th inning playing. That was amazing. And Cincinnati, the Orioles used an outfielder and a shortstop in the 8th and 9th innings of that game, and it got worse and worse and worse. And the bottom, I think I read this morning, the bottom 2 guys in the Reds batting order between them had 13 hits. It's just amazing.
That is incredible.
24-2. Holy cow.
By the way, with the Twins, their stadium is outdoors.
Yeah.
So was it cold or people are not showing up because they don't support the product? I mean, the Twins are frequently in the playoffs. So what's the deal?
Not statement A, one bad weather. Statement B, bad team.
Okay.
Just, oh. And it's only April. I'm not sure who's pissed off more. Pirate fan in Pittsburgh at ownership or Minnesota fans voted no confidence towards the Pohlad family. You're a baseball fan. Your response, Manfred versus Trump in the White House and Pete Rose. Feel free. Jump on board. Next topic, John.
Next topic, we're going to go down here. Lakers and the Clippers. Those are pretty ugly games of game one.
Hard to believe. And I don't understand the explanation. If dumbass talk show host and his co-host from left field knew that the Minnesota Timberwolves had a lot of fouls to give and played kind of back alley basketball, come out on the perimeter and beat your guys up, ran a lot of bigs in there and took a lot of fouls to screw up the rhythm. If we knew that, how come J.J. Redick didn't? J.J. Redick said they were surprised at the physicality of the Minnesota Timberwolves. How can that be? You got video, you got all these scouts, you got all these people in your front office to do the metrics. If I knew how they played, how come you weren't ready to see how they would play? At one point, the Minnesota Timberwolves playing in L.A. had a 27-point lead. 27-point lead. It was god-awful along the way. Minnesota, now they did something out of character. They just stood out there and kept drilling threes, and that's not been their history. Outside of Anthony Edwards, they hit 21 threes in the game. I mean, Jaden McDaniels was unconscious, and Julius Randle was just heaving threes, and they were going in. And they killed them on the boards. You do remember co-host said after they made all the trades with Luka, who the hell's going to play in the paint?
Right.
Minnesota had 44 rebounds.
Whoa.
Just mugged them inside. Lakers only shot 39% from the floor because they were getting body slammed out by the three-point arc, couldn't get into their offense. LeBron was MIA. Austin Reeves got dismembered in the first half, and it was only when he just started heaving the ball at midcourt that started to go in when the game was all well undecided. And Minnesota used 21 fouls in the game. 21 fouls. Just hatcheted the Lakers. Lakers. We didn't expect the physicality. What the hell? Where's your scouting report? So that's where we are. Clippers, I was really disappointed in because they were hot. They won 18 of their last 21 games. And we talked extensively how this thing had come together and Kawhi had gotten healthy. And suddenly they made the trade to get the three-point shooter Bogdanovich. And their bench was playing a lot better. And I thought, these guys are going to be dangerous. They had a 15-point lead in Denver. And the thing that's really hard, John, is you only get one or two opportunities to win a game in Denver. Well, you got these guys by the throat, and you got the Nuggets completely out of sync, and you let them off the hook. And I don't understand why Tyronn Lue would sit Kawhi Leonard, who did not have foul problems, sit him for the entire third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, you got James Harden becoming James Harden, bouncing the ball, 19 bounces. Shot clock is running off. And then he launches bad shots. Push the ball up the floor, get everybody involved, get back to what you did in the first half of the game when you had the lead. So it's too bad because that was a 15-point lead, and they owned the Nuggets at that point. And then the Nuggets started to play with confidence, and Nuggets started to play defense, which they didn't play when Mike Malone was there and then got his ass fired 2 weeks ago. Clippers let him back in. And I just don't know from a Clippers standpoint, you can reduplicate how well they played in game one. You shouldn't have let that one get off the hook. Comments on the Lakers and the Clippers?
Well, the Lakers, we were saying we don't know what to expect. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not good. But you just said Austin Reeves got dismembered. I'm thinking of like the Black Knight and the Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Dismembers like he's losing limbs. But it was a beatdown. I was watching that and I was like, God, this is in L.A. too. And just an embarrassing, coming out party in the playoffs where still a lot of the talking heads still think the Lakers could be a favorite to get to the finals. But after that, you're like, no way. And then as far as the Clippers go, we were swapping texts talking about how great they looked in the first quarter. Zubac was just all over the place. They were dominating in the beginning of that game, and then they just let it slip away.
Yeah, Denver really stuck their nose into it defensively. Now Lakers just got out of sorts, and their whole offense looked fragmented again. And I don't understand why Kawhi sat for such a long period of time. That made no sense to me.
Do you think he was thinking that they were up by a lot, and maybe they can kind of save Kawhi a little bit, and then it burned them.
Yeah, but then the momentum shifts. It's tough to get that momentum back in that building, in that altitude.
Yeah.
Tough. We go from Lakers Clippers. You got a comment? Feel free. Pile in. If you want to pile on, go ahead. Fans forum chat box is open. Next topic about the NBA, the other first-round games.
Yeah, the other first-round games are very entertaining.
Cleveland is Cleveland. That's Miami. Cleveland just mauled them. Cavaliers, 64 wins. That's a complete basketball team. That's a really good basketball team. Miami, they may have shot their bullet in the play-in games. They had tough play-in games. Tyler Hero's a really good player, but I don't know that Miami's got enough. Cavaliers roll to an easy victory there. Oklahoma City versus Ja Morant, the Guns, and Memphis. They beat him by 51. Oklahoma City beat Memphis by 51 yesterday in that first game. I mean, it was horrible. At halftime, it was 68-36. Ja, thanks for showing up with the fellas. Jesus, what a disaster. I find that one really hard to believe. Golden State, old dogs. You know, my big question, how would the veterans hold up against the kids? And the veterans at Golden State got the lead, Curry, Draymond Green. And I will tell you, that guard they traded for from Miami, Jimmy Butler, is just playing enormous amounts of minutes, and he's playing really, really well. Big difference maker. They held Houston off. They got the win. And again, from the Rockets' standpoint, it's a roster of kids, and they're going to have to learn what this next level postseason play is all about so that they got whacked. One other story, this is really scary. Greg Popovich, who, of course, sat out 2/3 of the season after suffering a mini stroke and then announced he was not going to coach the rest of the year, get his health back, and everything's been progressing fine, became ill at a restaurant and had to be taken to a hospital over the weekend in San Antonio. They don't know whether it was flu-related or poisoning. They don't believe it had anything to do with the stroke, but it's a red flag and it's a scary situation. Greg Popovich is now home, having been released from the hospital, was hospitalized over the weekend. So that scared a lot of people in the NBA. Go ahead, respond.
Okay, well, the Warriors-Rockets was the one I was interested in seeing, and because we didn't know what to expect with the Rockets as a young team, but they were bullying Curry early. They were pushing him around all over the place, but they didn't stop him, man. He was hitting bombs from the logo. I mean, he was unbelievable in that series.
And Butler has just been playing in another zone.
Oh, yeah. Butler is a great pickup for them. And then to the other series, with OKC, Jalen Rose made a comment about what Ja Morant was probably thinking in this series, that Ja Morant used to be the new kid, the new superstar. Memphis was one of the top rated teams in the West, then all went south on Morant and some of his off the field troubles. And now it's SGA is kind of the new poster boy, the new celebrity, and he's getting all the endorsements, all the TV commercials. So Ja Morant had something to prove, but really, I mean, he came up short, way short.
Oh, that was abysmal. And they got to come back and play game 2 in that building. That's going to be really, really hard. All things NBA. Feel free to join the conversation if you want. We're talking hoops. John, let's go to the next topic because this is a big week in the NFL.
Big week in the NFL and the draft. Lots of rumors.
Yeah, let's talk about the National Football League draft. This, of course, is the second game of our doubleheader. We did the first podcast earlier today, our NFL draft preview with John Cooper from Our Lads Draft Guide. Second game of the doubleheader, trade rumors. Let's just run through what has developed over the weekend into today. The Raiders obviously going to try to make some changes. The Raiders are trying to make some impact moves. The Raiders have the very high draft pick at number 6. Depending on which rumor you believe, I still think they're going to take Ashton Genty from Boise State. Intriguing rumor, though. They have cap space. They have the influence of Tom Brady. They have multiple draft picks. Raiders are talking to Miami about a trade for Pro Bowl cornerback Jalen Ramsey. Miami's trying to move him. He's got a $24 million cap figure contract this year. Miami will have to pay a piece of it. I've heard the Raiders are interested. And the Raiders have lost a lot of starters off their defense. If they get a guy like this who's got leadership ability with enormous experience, the rumor is they'd have to give up a 3rd-round pick for a 31-year-old guy. But Ramsey doesn't have a history of injuries. He's got a history of leadership. Boy, I think that'd be a really good acquisition. Raiders also brought in over the weekend Hunter Renfrow, that little slot back wide receiver, ran all the tough guy inside routes, didn't play last year. It was released by the prior Raider regime, did not sign anywhere. He had a knee injury at one point. He's totally healthy. I think the Raiders are going to wind up signing him. So I tell you, they get Jalen Ramsey. That's a huge back-end acquisition in terms of talent, but also leadership. New Orleans, man, they got problems everywhere. They got problems with Derek Carr, potential shoulder surgery. Now they report that Derek Carr just wants the hell out of New Orleans. This contract thing is a big problem. And now they've lost both their left tackle and their right tackle within a span of 11 days. Terran Armstead retired at left tackle after 11 years, and on the weekend, Ryan Ramczyk, the right tackle, retired. So New Orleans got a quarterback problem, and now they don't have their bookend tackles. That's not good at all. Really intriguing story out of Pittsburgh that the Steelers are trying to make another trade. Now, Pittsburgh is drafting 21 in the first round. There's a report that Pittsburgh is talking to Philadelphia about getting pick 32 also. Pittsburgh would give up second and third round choices maybe, and next year's number 1 to get Philadelphia's pick. So Pittsburgh would draft at 21 and 32. And the report is that Pittsburgh is very interested in Jackson Dart. And then Pittsburgh is also interested in just going into the marketplace and getting more offensive line help, which they could get at number 32. It's interesting. Pittsburgh might make a trade there. Denver. This is interesting. I can't quite connect the dots on this. The Broncos are talking to the Bears about trading up, going from 20 to 11 to take Ty Warren, the do-everything tight end fullback from Penn State. The only thing that doesn't make sense is Denver just spent a lot of money in free agency to get ex-Giants and Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram. Why would they make a big trade to trade up to get Ty Warren when you committed all this money to get Evan Ingram? Now, Denver also is in need of a power running back, and there are rumors out there they have interest in Omari Hampton from North Carolina. But why would they trade up to go get Ty Warren when they spent all that money on the other free agent, Evan Ingram? And in Philadelphia, in addition to the Pittsburgh trade, the Eagles are evidently going to get rid of Dallas Goedert, their star tight end. They've chopped a lot of players off that roster so far in this offseason. They're shopping him around, looking for maybe a third-round draft pick. Now, granted, he's got some miles on him, and there's a cap figure there. But, boy, I look at Philadelphia. They trade the tight end. They let the right guard go to the Chargers. They lost a young defensive end and a young defensive tackle in free agency, and they cut loose their veteran safety. Philadelphia, for a team who won the Super Bowl, sure chopping pieces off that roster before they come back to get their Super Bowl rings at the start of training camp. So, John, NFL Notebook, go ahead, respond.
Well, actually, Genty, you were saying in the previous episode that with John Cooper from Our Lads that Ashton Genty could be like LaDainian Tomlinson.
That's what an NFL scout told me.
Yeah, so break that down for me a little bit. I mean, is he really a dual threat kind of guy?
They're both 5'8". They're both really physical. They both have the extra gear once they get to the second level. They both do jump cuts. It's like they're carbon copies of each other. And Genty actually is bigger in the upper body than LT was coming out of TCU. I mean, Genty is just a physical specimen. A lot of comparisons. He's going to go. He's going to go early. I think he's going to the Raiders. I think they're going to get themselves a hell of a player. Now, Raiders, they still got to solve their offensive line problems, and they got to fill all these holes. We got to go out and get the work crew that's filling a pothole down by the end of your driver. Yeah. Got to get them and send them to Vegas and fill all the potholes on the defensive depth chart that the Raiders have. But so I think Genty's the real deal. And for NFL scout to tell me that looks like LaDainian Tomlinson, that's pretty impressive. And the people that are barking, well, he hadn't played anybody. Well, excuse me, Boise State did play really good non-conference people. And Ashton Genty ran for 200+ against everybody. He had 2,600 yards last season. So that's the point-by-point comparison to Tomlinson.
Interesting. I mean, that's an interesting comparison. I let's hope that he has a similar path, a similar career path. But the Jalen Ramsey, potential trade is interesting. But yeah, to your point, Miami would probably have to pick up at least half that money, right?
Yeah, awful lot. So we'll see where that goes if the Raiders have cap space, the Raiders have draft picks, the Raiders have Tom Brady's influence. They got Pete Carroll, who wants to play a lot of defense. They got Jalen Ramsey's resume. That makes a lot of sense. I think that'd be a hell of an acquisition.
No, I completely agree.
I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday, following Raider football with new leadership, new philosophy. This is going to be a fun draft. Hey, we get to halftime. This podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. They've got everything at Dixie Line. I found out about Dixie Line because my house was built in 1975. I moved in 1987. And by the 2000s, I really had problems with electric bills, heat and air conditioning. Why? Because what I had was an older house that was letting hot air in and not keeping cold air out during the winter. And I went and I got doors and I got windows, and I'll tell you what, lickety split. My house is very, very different right now. It's weird. We hardly run the air conditioning at all. I just lock that house up in the summer and I pull the blinds down. And it's not that I'm being non-friendly to my neighbors. I just want it dark and it stays cool. And the same thing in the winter. We do run the furnace a little bit more in the winter because this has been a very, very cold, chilly winter in San Diego. But the windows and doors that I got, just absolutely amazing. And I know John Riley for Christmas is going to buy me a gift certificate to get new bookcases in my man's cave from Dixie Line Lumber. What do you like about them?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, because you often talk about how in the middle of the summer, it's 117 degrees in my driveway, but it's cool in your house because of the doors and windows that you installed. And that's the thing with a lot of homes in San Diego, brand new homes are kind of all tricked out. But if your home was like 25 years old, it's a great candidate for an upgrade with doors, windows, maybe a kitchen or a bathroom model, maybe putting in some new decking in the backyard. Dixie Line's got it all. San Diego pillar here for over 100 years.
9 locations to serve you. Just go to Dixieline.com. Just see all the things that they have to offer, Dixieline.com. And the podcast is brought to you by Our Lads Draft Guide. This is the neatest year of the year. It's NFL Draft Week, and this is a publication you want to add to your library. It's 122 pages of information. It breaks down all the top players position by position and gives them a ranking. It breaks down all the NFL clubs with their depth charts and all the free agents they added and their most critical needs. 122 pages of information. If you go to ourlads.com right now, you can place your order and they will email you the PDF version of Our Lads book. They've been in business since the 1970s. That's when I first met them. Ourlads.com. Order your draft guide. They'll get it to you before the Thursday NFL draft. Okay, we get to halftime. We're going to the second half. A few more topics on the table. Just a program reminder. We did 2 shows today. We did an NFL draft preview podcast. You can watch that separately. And, of course, this podcast, when we're done, we open it up to the fans forum chat box. Yeah, I think there are going to be some people who have some opinions today. How does that work?
Okay, well, real quick, before I get to the fans forum, Our Lads is a tremendous publication and the work that they do. But when I hear of Our Lads, I always think of Philly Billy Werndell.
Oh, he was one of the original guys that wrote for them, and he still does stuff with them like I do stuff with them.
But you still stay in touch with Philly Billy, don't you?
Yeah, I'm on Philly Billy does a talk show on a small 1,000-watt station just outside Philadelphia, and he has me on. He has the coach John Katera on. He's got his regular cadre of friends who come in and do different things. So, yeah.
Good on him. I mean, Philly Billy, I'm glad to hear that he's still in the zone.
We would have him on this podcast if Philly Billy had a laptop and a computer. But Philly Billy is living like it's 1958. He probably still has a black and white TV, does not have a laptop, does not have a computer, does not have an email address. I mean, everything's on the phone. Hey, Lee.
He's got a rotary dial, maybe.
Yeah, it probably does. That's good for you.
Okay. Well, anyways, fans forum, you got a question or comment in the world of sports, just drop your take in Facebook, X, or YouTube in the live chat. We'll get you involved. Already, we got people that were commenting on the Our Lads draft preview, but if you made a comment there, bring it on over to this second part of the doubleheader, and we'll get you involved.
Okay. All that. Just to remind you like sports, please check my website. I write on it every day of the week. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders group. You can do that. There's an orange box on the homepage of the website. You fill out the orange box with your email. You'll get on our email list. We send out stuff every day. Also, just plain and simple, want to remind you, if you're on social media, I'm on social media. Let's just have a head-on collision on social media. Become a follower. You can follow me at Hacksaw1090. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe on the YouTube channel, you'll get alerts every time we put additional videos up there, and John and I do that on a regular basis. Also, you can help this thing explode and grow even more. Give us a thumbs up. That helps us a great deal. And give us a 5-star rating, because that helps us too. That cover it all?
It does cover it all. By the way, the 5-star rating is on Apple Podcasts.
Okay. So we go from that. Let's move to the second half. We're going a lot of other directions. We're going to talk some college football.
Yeah, San Diego State had their spring event.
I don't understand anything at San Diego State. I mean, here's a college football program that has kind of lost its way. The last couple of years under Brady Hoke were not great. The first year under what I thought was going to be a dynamic leader, Sean Lewis, was even worse. Their season ticket sales, John, are 33% lower today than they were last year. And I don't see how you can run a Division I football program when you have 5,426 season tickets. That's all they've sold at Snapdragon Stadium. And get this, the first year they opened Snapdragon, their season ticket count was 15,973. It's now 5,426. They've lost 10,500 season ticket holders in 2 years. I mean, it's just awful. And here they are, spring practice ends, and notably, college football fans, Aztec fans, alums would be intrigued. Spring football game coming up, red-black. I mean, it's a good long tradition, goes back a long time. They didn't hold it. They didn't hold a spring football practice. What they had was, it was almost like a fraternity party beer blast Olympics. They had the players running on the field, doing relays and doing stuff. They weren't doing football stuff. I was going to go till I found out what it was going to be. I said, no. I wound up having to do a press conference anyhow, so I couldn't have gone. But I just don't understand the thinking at San Diego State. Why would you not have spring football practice when you got all these new quarterbacks coming in, the coaches trying to reinstitute something very different and brand new, Aztec fast? Why would you not hold spring football the way spring football should be held, scrimmage, and give the fans a taste of what you hope is going to be a successful program, instead of running a fraternity beer Olympics? It was not football. I just don't understand what the hell they're doing over there.
Well, usually these spring football games for other programs, like for the Oklahoma Sooners, I mean, they'll sell out the stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, the fans are so excited about this. They're not going to sell out the stadium for a black and red scrimmage. But I thought I read somewhere that this beer Olympics relay race stuff.
That's what I call it.
But didn't it involve some of the fans too? And wasn't it sort of like a community connect thing? Or is it exclusively players?
Exclusively players, I believe. It was less than 1,000 people showed up for a Division I program.
So I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, especially if you're Sean Lewis, you want to keep proving that the program is advancing. You got these new talent. Why not just let them go? Have him play 2-3 quarters of the game. That'd be good for the program, good for the fans. What does he have to lose?
Yeah, this came on the heels. The last 2 home games, they drew 10,000 fans per game in stadium for the last 2 home games. And their attendance was miserable last year in a shiny new stadium.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the thought process of what's going on at San Diego State. I mean, I've been unbelievably critical at Aztec fans, the ones who run on the street. Aztec for life. Well, get your ass out there and support the program through thick and thin. And here we are on the other side of the campus. You can't buy a basketball ticket because that's the place to be. And population is totally ignoring the football program. And then they pull this fraternity stunt. It looked like a fraternity beer party Olympics. Bunch of kids running around.
My fraternity did that in college, which I get it. But it's fun, but not for that event.
Not when you're trying to resell the community on this dynamic coach, new quarterbacks. We're going to fix this thing.
Yeah.
Because the guy's got a track record, and it obviously didn't work last year, but
there's a lot they could have done to help to bring the fans in. I don't know. Were some people tailgating, kind of bringing back that vibe?
No. Less than 1,000 people showed up.
Crickets. I mean, it's just so disappointed. When they built that stadium, we thought it was perfect size for Aztec football, and it's just not working.
They've gone from 15,900 to 5,400 in season tickets in 2 years.
Well, if they win, they will come. That's the basketball's proven that. So if the Aztecs can figure this thing out, the fans will show up.
Okay, all things college football. Feel free to jump on board if you want. We're going from that. You know what started this weekend? Hockey.
The NHL playoffs are going. We got the Kings, and they're going up against the Oilers.
Okay, let's just run through this laundry list. LA Kings open with the Edmonton Oilers. First playoff game tonight. Kings have played these guys 3 times in the first round the last 3 years and gone home losers. I don't think they're going to lose. I think they run the Oilers out of this playoff attack. This Kings team is high-powered. It's got goal scorers, and they are in attack mode. Edmonton has been really banged up the second half of the season. They will have Connor McDavid. They will have Draisaitl. They will have Hyman, the 3 goal scorers, but it's not the same Oilers team right now. And this is a Kings team who was 31-6-4 this season at home.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think the Kings are right there, ready to make this move. And on top of everything else, payback, they got receipts in their pocket. They're going to pay the Oilers back for knocking them out of the playoffs 3 straight years in the opening round. Payback. So we got the Kings. Ducks. I was shocked. I was part of the press conference. I'm not quite sure I understand why Pat Verbeek, the general manager, would do this. He fired Greg Cronin, the coach, after just 2 years in what's supposed to be a massive long-term rebuild. Now, granted, the record is Greg Cronin, he won only 62 of 168 games in 2 years. But he had the youngest roster in the NHL because Pat Verbeek drafted all these kids and put them on the ice in the NHL, learn on the job. Well, his second year was much better. They were in the playoff race till right at the end. They went 35, 37, and 10 with kids. That's pretty representable. And he fired the guy, and he wouldn't talk about what the difference was. And he says it was more than wins and losses, but Verbeek would not talk about what was going on. They had miserable power play, miserable penalty killing. It might have had something to do with the makeup of the assistant coaching staff. And Cronin said, this falls under my area. And Greg Cronin is out, and he was shocked that he was told on Saturday morning he was being let go. I was kind of shocked too. Where do they go? There's some pretty good coaches out there they could go get. One of them just got let go by the New York Rangers, who fired their coach, which was a bit of a surprise. Another one may be leaving Vancouver. That's happened within the last hour or so. We're talking about the New York Rangers, and Peter Laviolette was terminated. That was after their new general manager, Chris Drury, made a whole bunch of trades trying to change the chemistry, and the Rangers didn't make the playoffs. They underachieved, so they hit the eject button on Peter Laviolette. He's gone. In Detroit, amazing story. Steve Yzerman's under a lot of fire. That's a legendary general manager. The Red Wings have gone 9 years without making the playoffs. And that's been a constant churn on the roster and a constant rebuild, and they have not been able to rebuild. And then there's Winnipeg, and Winnipeg is playing really well. I don't know if you saw any of the game. The first playoff game against St. Louis in Winnipeg was called a whiteout. Everybody wore white T-shirts. It was pretty electric. And Winnipeg scored 3 goals at the end of the game, came from behind, and beat the St. Louis Blues. And the last one would be Vancouver. Rick Tocchet, the option in his contract was not picked up, despite the great success that he's had in Vancouver in 2 years and massive rebuild. Vancouver did make the playoffs. Now, Vancouver says they're going to negotiate an extension, try to keep him, but Tocchet's he may be looking at the Ducks. He may be looking at the Philadelphia Flyers, where he was a star player. That job is open. So that's interesting. So the Kings are ready with receipts in their pocket. I don't understand the Ducks' decision to do this. The Rangers' problem is more than Peter Laviolette. I think Chris Drury deserves blame for screwing up the chemistry there. Yzerman's in hot water in Detroit. I don't understand Vancouver. And whiteout Winnipeg. Damn, that was a lot of fun to watch. Okay, John. Slap shot. Go ahead.
Slap
Stand on
shot.
line.
Well, it's difficult as a fan when you have the NBA and the NHL playoffs on at the same time.
Not my house.
I mean, it's just like constant. It must it's like 24 hours
Split
flipping
screen.
around. Yeah, exactly. But the thing, it's interesting the way that the Oilers have knocked off the Kings 3 years in a row in the playoffs. And every once in a while, you see that sort of thing in a lot of other sports. I remember as a little kid, the Cowboys beat the 49ers 3 years in a row, I think in 70, 71, and 72 in the NFL playoffs. I mean, it just makes the fans of the losing team so fired up and angry. So I'd imagine Kings fans are just ready to sink their teeth into the Oilers once and for all.
Kings fans standing at the glass behind the penalty box. I got receipts.
Yeah.
Payback.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what'd you think about the Ducks?
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, we praised the hiring of Cronin, and they had this really nice, they got right around 500. But I don't know. In your best 15, you were saying how the GM wanted a different voice in the room, someone that can motivate the players to a higher level. But who are you going to get? Are you going to pick up a guy that just got fired, by the Rangers? Or I mean, are there any other I'm
a big Tocchet fan. I've known Rick when he played with the Kings and the Flyers and interviewed him. I can't believe Vancouver would let him go, but Vancouver underachieved, and they screwed that roster up with all the trades, and they're paying all this money to this one player from Sweden. It's not scoring goals, and he's supposed to be scoring goals. So Vancouver's got some real mishmash of personality problems there, but I like Tocchet. If I'm the Ducks, I'd hire Tocchet, but I don't know what Verbeek wants, because this is the second young coach that Verbeek has had, because he fired Dallas Aikens, the ex-Skulls coach, who had a good track record of working with the young kids. And he fired Cronin after Cronin, they were 21 points better in the standings this year than last year with all kids. He fired him after almost getting into the playoffs. I don't understand it.
That's not quite as bad as firing Marty Schottenheimer going 14-2. But just one little side note here. I mean, the Red Wings logo is interesting because it's a puck, but I think it's also a wheel from a car,
from
right?
Detroit, Motor City.
Yeah, exactly. So you see the spokes in the wheel there. And I know the Bruins logo also has kind of spokes in a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
You're
big on graphics.
Well, it's interesting to me.
If your day job fails, you should go into design.
Well, I like to understand the history of the city and of the team and how they're aligned. And, when Detroit has a basketball team called the Pistons, I like that. Mm-hmm. It's aligned. And here with the Red Wings, that's a wheel, but it looks like spokes on a wheel, like an older car, like an MG or something. But then I just thought about the Bruins. They have spokes too.
Okay. Looking for a hockey fan, join me at Fans Forum. Bail me out of this segment with him because he's just gone off the deep end. Okay, we go from hockey. Last topic on the table. We're going to talk a little soccer.
Yeah, the San Diego FC had a rough go.
They've had a rough – people have figured them out a little bit. Now, they're on the road. That's the thing. I told you a couple of weeks ago they had this nice start. They ambushed a lot of people with their style, their physicality, etc. They played all home games. So they have a stretch where they're playing 7 of 10 matches on the road. And they went into Charlotte and they got whacked. And Charlotte's the best team in the Eastern Conference of MLS. So SDFC has now lost 3 in a row. So they're going to need to gather some momentum back. They're 4-3-2. Charlotte, though, just owned them, outshot them 11-2. And you normally don't see that in a professional Major League Soccer game, to give up that many shots, but they just were not competitive. Team USA, we've been talking about the U.S. women. We've been talking about the men. Big setback for Team USA's women. Trinity Rodman has re-injured her back again. And she's really one of the dynamic leaders up front for the USA national women's team. She's playing in the National Women's Soccer League in the Pacific Northwest up in Portland, and she got hurt again. San Diego Sockers, we don't talk a lot about it. They don't get a lot of coverage. They lost the championship game last night in Chihuahua, Mexico. MASL, which is the Arena Soccer League, the indoor league. Sockers were going for their 17th championship. Of course, they're playing in the brand new arena up in Oceanside. Had a 3-1 lead. It's a very tight, small arena. It's not 200 feet long like San Diego Sports Arena is, or like the new arena in Oceanside is. And they just had a tough time. They wound up losing the regulation game. Then it went to an overtime, and they wound up losing in the overtime. At a 3-1 lead, wound up losing 10-6. playing in Mexico, playing at altitude, playing in an angry stadium. And that's part of the problem is Chihuahua is got a 33 match winning streak now. So they end the soccer season. Good team, good organization. They don't market it very well. It's not what it used to be when it used to really have a place in the winter sports schedule here in San Diego. But that's tough that they have. This is the third year in a row they've had to play the final round of the championship round in Chihuahua, which is an impossible place to win. So you got SDFC, Team USA, and a Sox.
I think it's cool that we talk soccer. You know, and it's important, you know, especially of all the advances we've made here in San Diego. And, you know, back in the 80s, the San Diego Sockers were dominant. I remember talking with you about it. You were the play-by-play guy for the Cleveland Force.
Way back in the early days of indoor soccer.
Yeah.
Major indoor soccer league at that point.
Yeah, MISL.
Right.
And back then, I remember I was a student at UCSD, and I worked at the Sockers games and the Clippers games in the sports arena, selling popcorn up and down the aisles.
Oh, they were
San
Diego Sockers at that point. I mean, Julie V, Stevie Jungle.
Yes.
I mean, they had great players. They were a load. I mean, they were drawing, when I came in one year with Cleveland, I swear they were drawing 8,000 fans. The sports arena just rocked, and they were really good at home. And Julie V was just a spectacular player.
Yeah, he was. He was tremendous, and it was a great vibe in the sports arena. But you know what? The San Diego FC, man, they had one dude got 2 yellows, and he got removed. They're playing a man short in that game.
Yeah, played man short for 49 minutes.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a tough go on the road. I think maybe we're a little too excited by that start that they've had, so maybe coming back to earth, regressing to the mean.
Well, all the road matches right now kind of catching up to them. But it's a 34-game schedule. There's still a lot of soccer to be played.
All right.
Okay. So it's time for you to join us. Fans Forum chat box is now open for business. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it, fix it. We guarantee you will enjoy it in 2025. And by Our Lads Draft Guide. NFL Draft is coming up on Thursday. Follow the draft with their 122-page publication. If you go to ourlads.com right now, you can register. They will PDF you in email the draft guide. You won't believe the volume of information you get. John, are you ready? Here come the questions.
And we'll talk here. We'll start with Callan, talking a little Padres. He goes, hey, afternoon, gents. Saw that the Arise play was unfortunate. Neither player is at fault. However, do you think MLB should at least consider the orange base like softball and college baseball?
Well, the problem is, though, it wasn't the size of the base. It was Arise was chugging down the line and stumbled, and he was reaching to get to the bag. So, you know, an orange base is not, I mean, they made the bases bigger just last year.
That's right.
To help protect the players. So this is just a case of bang, bang, second baseman's coming across the bag, gets the throw from the pitcher, and Arise coming right up the baseline, stumbles and goes right into his shoulder. And then he went down, like, as I said, like a sack of potatoes. That happened so quickly. There was no intent. But the thing with Arise is, he stumbled as Dubon was going forward. As Dubon hit the bag, Arise was stumbling into him, hit him at full force. And then you have to go back and look at the video. Arise hit the back of his head on the turf as he was going down. Back of his head snapped. So I think there's maybe a concussion. Maybe he winds up in concussion protocol. Suddenly the Padres have become team disabled list. But I don't think it changed the size of the bags. I mean, they've already done that.
So I think it's Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado against the world now. Everyone else is hurt or playing below their expected level. But I saw a video clip online where it was college baseball, and a guy, you know, hit a base hit, and he, ran through the base like normal, and then came around through foul territory and then put his foot on the base. And the first baseman had the glove, but the kid put his foot on the orange base, not on the white base. And so then he got tagged and he was out. And I was like, oh, come on, man. I mean, that shouldn't happen. Right?
Again, you're trying to protect the players with the bigger base. That's why baseball went to I call them the pillow size bases to help these guys so that they don't get in the line of fire and there are less collisions. This was just a bang bang fluke play.
But Rowdy Tellez got into another similar deal with I can't remember who ran into him. I don't pity the poor guy that runs into Rowdy Tellez.
Yeah.
That guy's like a brick wall. So 2 of these in 2 consecutive days, it makes you wonder if they're going to do something.
I don't think so. Just an incident. There's collisions all the time. Okay, move on. Next one. Thanks, Callum.
Okay, let's go to Casey. He goes, hey, Lee, how you think the Kings will do versus the Oilers now that they've got home ice on them this year? You think the Kings can win the series this time around?
Yes, because that goaltender's red hot. And what Kemper has done this season to reinvent himself. And I think the other factor is that the Kings have got a lot of firepower. They have more firepower right now than they've had in recent years. It used to be Kempe and Kopitar. And the amount of goals they're getting from Warren Fogle and the amount of goals they're getting from Byfield and what they're doing on special teams, and they're 6 deep on defense. It's more than Drew Doughty playing 38 minutes a night. I mean, that's collectively a much better team. And again, Edmonton is dinged up. And Edmonton's top 3 goal scorers, although Draisaitl had 50 goals this season, he's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. Edmonton's just not the same firepower team. And on the back end, Stuart Skinner's shaky again in goal. 2 years ago, he was shaky when they got knocked out. Then a year ago, he had the unbelievable season. But this season has just not been as consistently strong. All of a sudden, it looks like goaltending has become a problem again for the Oilers.
The Kings' record at home, what is it again?
31-6-4.
That's incredible.
Best in the NHL.
Yeah, so if they just take care of business at home and they have home ice advantage, so they should be able to advance. So do you know, if you looked at the bracket, I mean, I'm counting my chickens here, but who's the next opponent?
I haven't looked at that. There's a few things taking up every hour of my day.
Just a little bit.
Just a bit.
But the Kings is tonight, right?
Yeah, they open tonight.
At what time? Do you know?
7-ish, I think.
7-ish.
Yeah.
All right.
It's great. I mean, the coverage is great. I can sit there and watch hockey all day, although I have to share my time. Split screen. Got to see some NBA, a little hockey. By 9 o'clock, my eyes are falling out of my head.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, it's Padre baseball.
Yeah, you got to watch
too.
the Padres against the Tigers and see how they're going to do. So, yeah, we're wearing out our remote controls.
Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here to Arnie. And he says, hey, Dodgers, Padres keeping the pressure on each other.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, neither one of them is totally healthy. The Dodgers got all kinds of injury problems to their pitching staff, so they're a little bit thin in the pitching department. And obviously, team disabled list. They got, I don't know if they're going to put a rise on the disabled list. If he goes on concussion protocol, he's out for 7 days. Geez, the Padres got so many guys on the DL right now that they're playing more guys from El Paso than they're playing established major leaguers.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's like a flurry of injuries, and even like Jason Hayward got nicked up. So hopefully they can get everything cleaned up. Arnie had a quick follow up here. I want to swing this one in. He says Soto hasn't hurt the Padres; they're better off.
I think the 2 intangible things that changed with Padre baseball: Soto's out of that clubhouse and Josh Hader's out of that clubhouse. And I've been in that clubhouse. I dealt with those guys. I just had a very different opinion and not very high opinion of them. Might be great players, no doubt about it, but there's something there about them being so self-centered. And I call Soto Mr. Me, Myself, and I. And what he said on Friday in New York, what an insult it is to Peter Alonso, who's hitting .436 behind him, for Soto to make this statement, well, I don't have Aaron Judge hitting behind me. That's a cop-out. You're hitting .224. And you got a big bat behind you. So don't tell me that Judge is not an established guy behind you.
Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge is don't tell me that Pete Alonso is not established like Aaron Judge was established behind you there, because he's got his own set of success at Citi Field. Talking about Alonso.
It's just stupid. I mean, Soto doesn't take accountability or responsibility for himself.
Me, myself, and I.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's deflecting and blaming someone else. I mean, Soto is just a drama queen.
Arnie, thanks for being with us.
Okay, let's go to Hector. He goes, hey, Lee, it's clear that Snitker's double standard with Latin players has caused him to lose the respect of Acuna, Albies, and Ozuna. Will he survive past the All-Star break? And who could possibly save the Braves season if it continues like this?
Well, the Braves got to get healthy. That's item one. But the incident with Kelenic, the outfielder, that bears watching. And the fact that Acuna came out after the game, and he's not traveling with the team as he's finishing up his rehab, and he'll be back soon. But the fact that Kelenic thought he hit a home run and jogged, and then realized it wasn't a home run, the ball was in play, and rounded first, tried to go to second, and got thrown out when he should have been running hard right from the get-go. And the fact that Snitker did not pull him out of the game or even address it with him. That's a big issue. So you take all the injury issues, and they've just had a ton of problems. And now you add this attitudinal issue with Kalenic, who, by the way, is hitting 176 and has been a major disappointment. So I don't know. I don't know if they hit the eject button on Snitker yet, but there's no doubt that the Braves manager's catching some heat, and that player deserved to get benched because he loafed. He stood there and watched it, and all of a sudden he realized it was going to hit the wall. Oh, I guess I should run. And then he rounds first, and he got nailed at second base, and the manager never addressed it.
It's just the dynamic with a manager and these really high-priced players. I mean, not the Kalenic is necessarily that, but Acuna and Albies, all those guys make big money. It's hard for them to discipline those players without them like rolling their eyes and saying, yeah, whatever, man.
Yeah, but if he's a tough leader on everybody, if Albies is striking out a lot or whatever, then you can be tough on this guy hitting 176. You should be tough on all of them. They should have the same set of rules for everybody. But this guy loafed, and you never had such a. What's your record? 5-14. I mean, it's just been wrecked by injuries. What a lousy start. So, but is it wrong for Acuna to come out on social media and say what he said? That that opens up a different can of worms. What goes on in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse for the most part. You're doing it on social media.
We usually think of the Braves as a really well-run organization.
Yeah.
But not so. And then, by the way, did you see how the pitcher that signed was a Braves pitcher, went to the Yankees?
Max Fried.
Fried, that's right. He almost had a no-hitter.
Yeah, and the official score changed. He had a no-hitter going to the 8th inning. By the time he gets out to the mound in the 8th inning, the official score changes a play and makes it a base hit. Took his no-hitter away.
Yeah, I mean, that was silly too.
He wasn't rattled by it. Fried pitching pretty well. Yankees have been a bit of a surprise considering the mess their rotation is. Yankees are 14-7, maybe 15-7, which I didn't expect early on.
Well, all right. April's a weird month for baseball. Okay, let's go here. We'll go to Just Good Sports. He says, I'm pissed off more that you're talking politics with sports in the background. I guess that's California.
No, it's just sports intersecting with politics. I'm not doing my job if I'm not telling you what happened between Manfred and Trump. Why would I ignore that? If you vote Democrat, that's cool. If you want to vote Republican, that's your choice. I'm just reporting what the hell's going on here at the intersection of sports and politics. You guys are just reacting so badly. And the flip side is you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not entitled to my opinion. Come on now. What did I say that was wrong? Trump imposed his will about Pete Rose on Manfred. Manfred said, you can do whatever you want about the income tax conviction. Look what the hell you do with the January 6th guys who are in prison. No. You're a Republican, you disagree. Sorry. I come from a military family, law and order. I disagree with what they did with the J6 guys that were in prison. But sports intersected with politics. That's why I had to cover the story. Why should I ignore the story? I don't know, John. You be the mediator in all this. Don't sit there.
No. I think it's fair because when there is an intersection, I think it's worthy of commenting on. But by the way, the only people that complain about politics and sports are pretty much Trump supporters because usually you don't have a kind word to say about them. But at any rate, it's a legitimate story. I mean, we had the Dodgers going to the White House. That stirred up a whole thing with the fans here. Now this one, and then there was a third case. It was the Jackie Robinson one.
Yeah.
And so, Trump's sticking his nose in sports. We have to talk about it.
Listen, on behalf of Just Good Sports, have your president fix the 401k program. Have you checked your 401k program after what happened today on the stock market? Your 401k program is the one is empty, has no money in it now because of the guy you voted for.
Yeah, I know the stock market got off to a rough start today, too.
Oh, yeah. But we shouldn't talk about that.
No. Okay, let's
Hey, thanks for joining us. You join us again. Go ahead, John.
All right, let's go here to Showtime LA. And he goes, Hacksaw, how effective do you think Kershaw can be when he comes back if he's sitting 90-92 with his Hall of Fame slider and curveball? Could we get a 2023 Kershaw when he had a sub 2.5 ERA?
Well, the question is, are they going to let him go in the rotation or are they going to ask him to be a long reliever to start? The question is, how many innings does he have? So far at Oklahoma City, first start was totally dominant. and all they were working on was location, etc. He's pitching against AAA guys, but if his stuff is vibrant, he's going to get another start, and then they'll make a decision how close he's ready to coming back. I still think it's a little bit farther down road because he's got to pile up innings and pitch count. He's not ready to do that now. And I don't think we're going to see a 2.25 ERA ever again from Kershaw, but as long as he's competitive and he gives them 5 or 6 quality innings and they'll go get him because of the depth in the bullpen, I'm not going to say insurance policy, but he's an insurance policy to the rest of the rotation. The rest of the rotation right now, at least the front 3 guys, holy cow, those are good. Now, Blake Snell has thrown 2 bullpens. He's not ready to come back, but he's had no setbacks from the shoulder inflammation. So his first 2 bullpens have been pretty decent. They think they're going to throw 2 more with him.
You know what I like about Kershaw is that he is a Dodger through and through.
Yeah.
You know, and he probably could have taken big money to go elsewhere.
Go to Texas. It was pitched to go home.
Yeah, he could have done that. He could, you know, he had time when he was on the injured list, and I'm sure he probably could have pitched elsewhere, but the Dodgers roster was so full of pitchers.
And Kershaw was also the one that held the team meeting and said, we are going to the White House.
Yeah, so
because it's our honor. We earned this because we won the World Series. So let's just go and enjoy the experience.
Yeah, he's like a high character guy, you know? And so, but how old is he? I mean, he's got to be in his mid 30s, right?
Oh, 36, 38, maybe.
Yeah. Because I know he was like really good, like 2012, 2013. You know, that's like when he was really hitting his stride.
Dominant, a lot of innings, a lot of quality starts. But he's had all these nagging things and different surgeries. It's not just one thing with him. He's had so many different things that have happened: shoulder, elbow, obviously toe. But he's a warrior. He might be a Hall of Famer. I don't know by the time we get to the finish line with him. So I would target. They're saying Ohtani's going to be the first one back, maybe the end of May, and they say Kershaw maybe sometime in June. So insurance policy, next one.
Insurance policy. Okay, let's keep going, and we'll go here to John. And he says, hey, Peter Laviolette has a short shelf life. He missed the playoffs completely his last season in D.C.
Well, it's hard for me to believe when you look at the makeup of that Ranger, NHL New York Ranger roster. Boy, there's a lot of talent there. But they didn't play well together. And then Chris Drury came in as the new general manager, and he just started trading people. And maybe there's more trades coming. But, you know, Drury has to be held a bit accountable for disrupting the chemistry. He's like the guy in Vancouver. I mean, they've changed that roster. A year ago this week, Vancouver was a Cinderella team. They were in the 7th game of the Western Conference Finals. And now all their players are gone, and Tockett's contract, they're not picking up the option. They're going to let him actually go on the open market. So Tocchet may be leaving. So I just don't understand Chris Drury's methodology, because that looks like an awful lot of good talent on that roster. Maybe they don't play together. Maybe there's too many Eagles. Maybe the noise being in the New York market is too great. Maybe the pressure of just being the Rangers and playing Madison Square Garden. But geez, on paper, they look like a really good hockey team. But Laviolette has now been axed at both Washington and New York. So maybe people say, maybe there's something not right with him too.
Interesting. So he was a former Ranger player?
No,
excuse me.
Longtime coach.
Oh, coach. Pardon me.
Tocchet is the former star player.
Okay.
Tocchet was with the Flyers, the Penguins, the Kings. That's where I met Rick. I think he's a great leader with young guys. I've heard so many different stories about how he interacts with players. I'll tell you one story out of Vancouver about a week ago, and this is a true story. They're fighting for their playoff lives, and they've had a lot of injuries, and then they made some controversial trades, etc. They had hot spurts, and they have a bad spell, and they have a hot spurt. So they lost a game at home that kind of killed them in terms of the playoffs. They missed the playoffs by 2 points, by 1 game. So the players are in their dressing room after this home ice loss. And coach normally comes in and makes a comment to them, and then they leave and finish up, get cleaned up, and leave. He came in and he sat in the room with the players for 5 minutes. Sat next, didn't say a word, just sat and looked at all the players. And they all sat in their uniforms and they looked at him. Silence for 5 minutes. He got up and said, we're all part of this losing. And in essence, he sent the message, I am suffering with you as your coach. I was told it was really, really cool. The players just responded, and they came out the next game and they blew out somebody good. I might have blown out Calgary, who was in the playoff race too. And then they ran out of gas at the end. But Tockett's a great leader, but he sat there and said, "Yeah, I'm suffering with you over this." He sat there for 5 minutes. No ranting, no raving, no hang in there, guys. We're all part of this. That's pretty impressive.
That's interesting because coaches know how to push buttons,
Yeah.
good coaches. And this was almost like the opposite of pushing a button, just doing nothing and having them sit in that uncomfortable silence, doing nothing. So I like that. I mean, because as a coach, it's got to be innovative, got to come up with some way to light a flame and change the mental attitude.
Yeah. So that's where they are. Tocchet is now a free agent as a coach. He might be going back to Philadelphia. I can't aside, I know a lot of people in Canada. I just can't believe Vancouver would let this guy get on the open market. Wouldn't even pick up the final year's option on his contract. If I'm the Ducks, I'm calling Tocchet, but I don't know what Pat Verbeek's agenda is because I was on his Zoom call and I asked 3 questions, and I don't quite understand why he would fire Greg Cronin after giving him the youngest team in the league and saying, "Fix this." And he almost had 500 hockey team this year.
There's got to be something there that we just don't know, like behind closed doors, it's maybe some violation of trust. I don't know, but it doesn't make sense on the surface.
Yep. Concur with you. Okay. Next one.
Okay. It's a 2-parter. It's a quickie from Jason, the Metal King. He goes, "Love it. Let's talk NHL logo design history. And did anyone ever recognize the hidden H in the Hartford Whalers logo?"
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And also the harp. The whale harp that came through. There've been a lot of different alliterations to the original Hartford Whalers, but yeah, John,
it's good.
John's a pseudo graphic guy.
Well, I like everything about the mascot name and the color schemes and all of that. To me, like, have you ever seen? There's one guy that he does a column and all he writes about are uniforms and logos. And it's really interesting. And talk about the history of the logos and the history of the teams and everything. I think it's just all fascinating.
Okay, I want you to just put your gray matter to work. I just want you to come up with the design for Cal Irvine's Anteaters. I want you to come up with something that will be their logo.
Well, they already have a logo. It's
UCI.
No, but they have the anteater from the old Pink Panther cartoons, I think is the picture. And it's got like his long nose and it says Zot. And he's like zapping an ant.
Okay.
That's a great one. I mean, they like talk about UC Santa Cruz or the banana slugs, and UC San Diego. When I was there, the Tritons, but there was a student initiative to change the mascot to the koalas because there's a lot of eucalyptus trees on campus, and it passed to a student vote. But the athletic department said, "No way, are we going to be known as the koalas?" That was back in the 80s.
Listen, if you look at the first game of the doubleheader podcast we did today, the NFL draft preview with John Cooper from Our Lads, John Riley designed all the unique graphics. So John's got a lot of spare time on his hands. You let him go in front of a computer, he kind of loses his mind sometimes. But look at the graphics on the NFL draft preview podcast we did as the first podcast today was really cool. You do a good job despite yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, David has a follow-up on that. He says, "Hey, John brings a nice perspective from a fan's point of view, and he does his best." And big thanks to him for all the content he edits and posts. And thanks for that. I appreciate that. It's a labor of love working with you. And, we take this podcast, we split it up into different segments. We have the one man's opinion commentaries that we do. I'm busy in between Mondays and Thursdays and between Thursdays and Mondays.
And it's not bad for a guy that's got a lot of opinions that come from left field. I agree with you.
Well, you're the serious journalist. I can offer a little bit of something on the
Thanks,
side.
David.
Okay. And let's go over to social media. Actually, there's a couple more. There's a ton of comments in here, but let's go to social media. And we'll go here. And let's talk a little about the NFL draft. Oh, pardon me. Get this one off the screen. My bad. Okay, this is from Flick. And Flick says, I think a big factor in Shedeur Sanders falling on the draft board that nobody's talking about is if you draft Shedeur and have a bad season, is Dion coming to take your job?
No, I don't think so. Dion's in Colorado, just got a 5-year extension. And, Shadur's got glitches in his game. Did he put up great numbers? He sure did. Was he a one-man gang at Colorado on offense? Yeah, he sure was. But you know what? If you hold the ball too well, if you are slow making your decisions, if you're taking the enormous number of quarterback sacks because you're making slow decisions, that's a big problem. If you don't have a cannon for an arm and you can't get it there quick, that's a problem. I'm not going to say he's overrated because he did get it done at Colorado and prior to that at 1AA Jackson State, but that's at a much different level. So, NFL guy told me that he doesn't check off a lot of the boxes that a quarterback needs if you're going to view him as an elite quarterback. And one of the stories that's making the rounds today is that New Orleans is a mess. I mean, they got a Derek Carr quarterback problem. Now they've lost both their tackles who've just retired, got a salary cap problem. There is a report that New Orleans at 9 might take Jackson Dart of Ole Miss. And if that's the case, that means Shadur is going to drop from what many thought was going to be 1 or 2, drop beyond 9 and drop into the 15s or maybe as far back as Pittsburgh at 21. And if Pittsburgh doesn't like him at 21, what the hell? He goes into the second round. So I just think there's glitches to his game that people see on video. These coaches, these coordinators, they study this stuff every minute of every day till their eyes fall out of their head, and they'll find shortcomings in every player. And you start to add up the shortcomings in Shadur, that becomes a big issue. Pocket presence, lack of gun for an arm, holds the ball too long, doesn't see things on time. NFL, you got to be great in all these categories because those pass rushers are coming.
Well, glitches in the physical part of the game, I can understand, but I think the glitches in his mental game and his whole attitude are far more impactful on his drop on the draft board than the fact he holds onto the ball too long.
Well, I think it's a combination of his football IQ, but when he told the New York Giants, I'm not working out for you, I got 4 years on tape, just go look at the tape. That was the end of that conversation. That was the 3rd pick in the draft.
I saw a mock draft where the Giants are still going to take Sanders at 3.
No.
You don't think that's going to happen?
No, I don't think so. I think the Giants, somebody's taking Abdul Carter at 2, which I think is Cleveland, and or Cleveland's taking Travis Hunter. That means the Giants are taking Abdul Carter. That's what I think is going to happen.
And then didn't Coach Prime, he got an extension at Colorado, didn't he?
5-year restructured deal.
Yeah. I remember we were talking about him maybe coaching the Cowboys, so that would be something.
He was talking about coaching the Cowboys, not anybody else that I know of. Okay, thanks for the input. And, of course, Thursday's the draft, and we will be on leading into the draft, so we may have a new set of rumors to talk about going forward. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, let's keep moving on here. We'll go to It's JW. He says, hey, with the turmoil and ownership of the Padres and everybody we lost, I thought this season was a wash. In my opinion, Mike Shildt is the reason we are winning.
Smart guy baseball, very intelligent baseball. John and I talked about that last week. I mean, how impressed we are with just his approach to the players and his deep thought about all types of situations, pitching, matchups, pinch hitters, defense, schemes, etc. So he's a really smart guy. But he can't keep everybody healthy, and right now he's got an awful lot of guys on the disabled list. So, but good start to the season. Let's just see if they can continue. Just don't want to have any more catastrophic injuries.
I was driving, during the afternoon yesterday when the Arise situation happened, and I remember Jesse Agler said that Mike Shildt has probably spent more time on the field just during that 11-minute stretch, than he probably has in a very long time. So. But I agree. I think Shildt is just sort of this kind of stealth guy, he's just sort of quietly there, but making a really big impact.
He's a smart guy. I came from one of the best run organizations in modern day baseball, the St. Louis Cardinals, Cardinal way. They have a certain style that they play, etc. And I'm not just talking analytics. I'm just talking about schemes and X's and O's and how the game is played and how you defend it and how you handle your pitchers. The analytics guys come down with all these averages and all these trends that they see because they study all that. So you take all that and you give it to Shildt with his philosophy of how the game should be played. It's amazing that Mike got let go by St. Louis. He had 3 winning seasons, and Cardinals gassed him. And the Cardinals haven't been anything since they let him go.
Yeah, that was weird that he got fired by the Cardinals. But, remember it was a couple of years ago, the Padres had 4 managers on staff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Melvin and Schilt, and I can't remember who the other 2 were. I mean, so good that he's hung around. He's turned out to be a good pick, far better than the whole Melvin fiasco.
Yeah, that Melvin fiasco was obviously supplemented, complemented, and impacted by Preller and the analytics guys upstairs, and interference in the dugout, interference in the clubhouse, etc. So worked out. They got a good manager right now, and I agree with JW, smart guy, smart dude. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's talk a little about the draft and the Browns. This is from Flash Bain. He says, hey, if Cleveland is smart, they will take Travis Hunter with the 2nd pick and take a quarterback in the 2nd round.
Exactly. Although there may be a run on quarterbacks at the back of the 1st round into the 2nd round, but there's going to be a good quarterback there. And as we, if you've not seen our first podcast today, which was on the NFL draft, jump on board. Jalen Milroe has taken a massive jump up. So has Tyler Shuck from Louisville. I would say those 2 guys more than others are probably going to be there at the top of the 2nd round. So Cleveland, depending on who they like, Cleveland's going to get a kick at the can at one of those quarterbacks in the 2nd round.
Yeah, Travis Hunter is like a wild card. Everyone seems to want him. Look, check out this guy here. This is from Chase. He's a Titans fan. He says the Titans shouldn't take a quarterback first. Take Carter or Hunter or trade back. Do you think they would?
2 weeks ago, I would have said yeah, because that was a rumor. But this thing that evidently Cam Ward has had 2 private meetings, 2 private workouts with them, and he's really impressed him. And Cam Ward's career he's a student of the game, and he's a physical talent. He's gotten better and better every place he's played. And they don't have a quarterback. And now they need a lot of help other places too. So from everything I can gather, it looks like Cam Ward's going to Tennessee, and then they'll draft defense, 2nd and 3rd, and then we'll see what New England does. And, rumor is New England's trying to trade out of number 4. Who wants Shedeur Sanders? Call me. Well, nobody's called the Patriots about a trade for number 4 because Sanders is dropping like a block. So New England at 4, they need offensive line help. They get a really good offensive tackle at number 4. And then Jacksonville's going to draft defense, one of the men from Michigan. So this draft is kind of fallen in place. Unless somebody does something really crazy at the top, trades out, then maybe it'll change. But that's where we are right now.
How's Will Levis doing these days, you think?
He's 2nd round pick, waiting to see if he's going to have a job. He'll be a backup quarterback if they draft Cam Ward. Then Cam Ward's going to get the chance to win the starting job, and Levis will be number 2. But right. Levis had such a very good first season and just kind of regressed really badly, and the whole team fell apart the 2nd season. That's where we are.
Okay, keep going here. Okay, this is a good one here from Mark. He goes, hey, back to just sports. Thanks, Hackskaw. Your sports opinions are fantastic.
I think all my opinions are bleeping brilliant, but that's okay. We're going to talk sports 99.99% of the time, and the other 0.1%. We'll talk about sports and politics if we have to, but we always revert back to sports. The content is bleeping brilliant. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel about my website. Does anybody read my website? That's what I'd like to know. We don't have any real numbers on that, how many people are actually sampling it every day, but we write a ton of stuff on the website in addition to doing the podcast Monday and Thursday.
You get a lot of comments on your website, for people that read your articles and they go on and they respond to you. Mm-hmm. And so you've got a following that likes the website content. There's other people that prefer the podcast. So, good on you for you're multimedia. You're everywhere.
Not enough hours in the day to do all this, though. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, a couple more here before we put a lid on this.
Okay, let's go here to Lenny and talking about the Padres. And he says, hey, the money the Padres saved on Soto, they gave part of it to Jackson Merrill. So the Padres made out. So many injuries are in sports. It's hard to enjoy it. But anyway, Lee, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy my Golden Knights tonight, win or lose. I think I told you I live in Vegas, but I grew up in San Diego.
No problem. Vegas is a really, really good hockey team. I wonder if Las Vegas's Golden Knights goaltending is a little bit suspect. That's the only thing. But Aiden Hill, and it was interesting because I met him maybe 4 years ago. He was down here. I'm trying to think who he played for. Might have been Bakersfield, but they came in to play the Gulls, and he was red hot as a goaltender in the American Hockey League. And he's different because I guess you call a left-handed goaltender, he catches with his hand. I was really impressed with him, and he kind of bounced around, and he finally found himself. He's made himself into a really good NHL goaltender. Now he's got a long-term contract, but is he a Stanley Cup finalist goaltender? That I got questions about that, but that's a self-made guy. That's what the American Hockey League is so cool. You'll see guys here, and next thing you know, they'll be in the NHL, or they might be recycle guys, and they make themselves into really good players. And Aiden Hill, that's kind of a recycle goaltender who just developed, and now he's in the NHL playoffs, and he is the guy in Vegas.
Well, they won their first game, right? Yeah. And talk about logos and all that stuff. It's interesting how Vegas, or they refer to them as VGK, Vegas Golden Knights.
And the colors are black and gold because the owner graduated from West Point.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Then that's the Knights goes with West Point too.
There you go. You know, you're not as dumb as you look.
But see, this is the cool part of the conversation, because we would talk about the games. There's a lot of other things going on.
We should do a show just on graphics and uniforms. John could pull up all the stuff that's stockpiled in his computer and say, I like this and I don't like that, et cetera, et cetera. John's not a big fan of the current city uniforms that a lot of teams wear. I think baseball has totally missed the boat. Now, there's some that are really good. I like the Padres lime sherbet uniforms. It took a while for that to grow on me. I don't like the Dodger jerseys. I think the Angels, there could be so much more they could do with the dynamics of the, what do you call it, current city?
No, the City Connect.
City Connect jerseys. Yeah, John's got opinions on City Connect. Ask John that's what you do. John, since you got all this spare time, just design me a new third jersey for the Padres. What would you have it be?
I think they finally got the uniforms right. And the City Connect one are nice.
They're cool.
They're cool. But you have to understand the backstory. And the Padres produced a video that was really good that talked about San Diego culture and Tijuana, Baja culture. And then you kind of saw the pink and the
color scheme
and the green kind of comes from a lot of the Mexican culture. And so when you see it in that context, it all makes sense. But when you see it for the first time, I mean, it just blows your mind. And people that are, on the East Coast are probably thinking, what in the hell are those people doing in San Diego?
It grows on you, though. I would have liked to see palm tree on the shoulder or the Coronado Bridge on the shoulder. So, I mean,
did you see the Coronado Bridge is in the logo of the San Diego Sockers?
Yes.
I thought that was pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, see, again, this is kind of cool stuff to talk about.
Okay. John's got a lot of spare time in his hands between midnight and 5 a.m. All right, let's do one more here.
Okay, we'll go here, talk a little about the Padres and Cubs. He goes, hey, just before the season, you talked down about the Padres, saying a lot of negativity. Hey, 15-4, 3 losses to the Cubs with 2 of those losses in extra innings by 1 run. This team could easily be 17-2. With that said, now you have something positive to say. You are the ultimate bandwagon San Diego fan. I know, because you've been like this since the 1980s.
You're correct, because I deal with what's right in front of me. And at the point I made those comments about the Padres, they had question marks with injuries to their pitching staff. And there were question marks until Pivetta arrived to make their big 3 realistic. And you had Suarez coming off a horrific ERA spring training of 10.77 and suddenly wasn't getting anybody out and getting lit up. And you had the uncertainty over Kyle Hart as to, well, this isn't Korea. You're in Major League Baseball. So at that given moment, Holo is just walking around with in grudge mode. So what I said the last week of spring training doesn't bear truth now because we have Pivetta. And we've got all these other guys that are playing much better. So you have to deal with the facts the day you're making the comments. It's not about being negative across the board. Padres are off to a great start. Like I said, God's not coming down from the heavens and taking away their 16 victories. They earned this. Now, can they continue this? Remains to be seen. I don't know. You said something 3 years ago tonight, and I'm going to hold it against you. Well, that's not true.
Well, it's funny how fans just pile on you about all the comments and everything else. But I just want to talk about Suarez, because you brought him up.
Yeah.
He was really shaky in spring training, and he was working on things, but now the guy is brilliant. I mean, he's developed a changeup, which is really working.
And he wasn't throwing out stuff last year when he kind of got lit the second half of last season too.
And does Kyle Hart survive this thing, or Darvish will probably replace him?
Well, Darvish isn't coming back till June. This is a very slow process with him. They're not getting equal value for the wide amount of money that is paying Darvish, because he's been hurt again with another elbow issue. Kyle Hart, they're just going to have to take their time. But I mean, I went back, as I said, I looked at his spring training statistics, and he was on the beam in spring, and he still gave up hits and walks and home runs. And now what he's done in these starts here, and yeah, he's got 2 wins, but his overall numbers are really bad in terms of lots of guys on bases, and he's given up 8 home runs in his spring and to the start of the regular season. Can't live with that. So we'll just see how long they stay with him as a starter. But where you're going to go, that's the other thing now. The fact that Stephen Kolek has fallen apart in El Paso, he's got an ERA of 7.17 at AAA, and that was supposed to be the next starter in line. And there is no Johnny Brito, because he's got the forearm. He's gone. He's on the disabled list. There's no surgery yet. So suddenly, strength in numbers, it's kind of gone away.
And then Waldron's on the 60-day, right?
He's on 60 with the oblique. He's not doing anything baseball related yet. He's got to do all the weight training and all that.
Crazy.
Long process.
Yeah, I mean, what the other guy, Brian Hoeing, he's like a long reliever. He could be a starter.
Yeah, but he's of all the guys that are hurt, he's farther along than anybody, but he's not ready to be a starting pitcher. He's got to throw in games down in AAA yet, and he hasn't gotten that. He's doing bullpens. So far, so good. But that's a big difference between just doing bullpens and actually throwing max effort.
Someone call Russ Kinnear. I mean, you got to have to dig deep, I think.
No, that's where we are. Okay, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our doubleheader broadcast today. We did something really different. If you did not see the NFL draft preview, you can find that on the YouTube channel. That was the first game of the doubleheader today with John Cooper from Our Lads Draft Guide. It was really in-depth and really cool. And, of course, our regular podcast. Thursday, we'll be on at 1:30. Now, the draft starts in the 5 o'clock hour on the West Coast, so we're going to be talking a ton of NFL football, maybe doing a mini mock draft. So be ready to pile in and pile on also on our Thursday podcast. This podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Build it, fix it, guarantee you will enjoy it. And by Our Lads Draft Guide. If you're an NFL fan, a college football fan, you ought to add this to your library. Just go to ourlads.com. You can subscribe, and they will email you the PDF of the book. It's 122 pages. It is chock full of information. John won't be watching any TV. He'll be reading the draft guide that I got him tonight.
It's like a 7-point Arial font. It's got so much data in there.
So, hey, ourlads.com. That's the place to go. We'll be back here on Thursday. We start at 1:30, and we'll be talking a ton of NFL draft. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for participating. John, take a deep breath, because Thursday will be on us before you know.
Yeah, more NHL and NBA playoffs. A lot to talk about.
Not enough hours a day to do this, but we'll be doing it, and we'll be talking to you about it. Thanks, as always, for being part of this team. Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.